Hey everyone! Welcome back to Story Hive. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Let's jump into today's story. My girlfriend cheated on me with her female friend, so I played with her mind before dumping her. I'm a 26-year-old male and have been dating my girlfriend, who I'll call Steve, a 24-year-old female, for 5 years now. I think we've had a great relationship. She's been pretty good to me too, until what I'm about to narrate. Our years of dating had been mostly conflict-free. Let me cut to the chase. Steve has a friend from college named Lucy. They weren't roommates or classmates, but they met while watching a volleyball or basketball match. I can't recall exactly. From there, they became good friends and would hang out occasionally, even after college. I think they see each other about once or twice a year, so yeah, they're good friends. I've never felt any kind of way about their relationship. So, when Steve said that Lucy would be in town and she wanted to crash at her hotel for a night, I didn't think much of it. This wasn't the first time they'd made an arrangement like this. For clarity, the first time I did find it odd because our apartment has an extra room and Lucy could just come to our place. But it made sense when she said that Lucy wouldn't feel as free to do as she could if she had a hotel room. I didn't make it a problem. When the day came, I was happy having the house to myself. I could eat whatever I wanted, watch whatever I wanted, and freeble it not a bad trade-off. I had as much fun as I could that day, and Steve came back the next morning. She seemed to be in a good mood, as far as I could tell, and considering she had just had a good time with her friend, that was normal. However, the part that got me was when she asked me if everything was all right. This was a question she had asked before, but the only time she'd ask it was when my mood was clearly off for whatever reason. I had a good time by myself, so it didn't really make sense to me. It did make me a bit curious, though I wouldn't quite say suspicious. I let it go. Now we've got to skip forward. I was chilling with a buddy of mine about 2 weeks later, and he started on some theory he had that all straight women were bisexual to some degree. It sounded pretty funny to me, but he seemed really insistent on making his point. I can't remember everything he said, but he talked about how they liked seeing each other naked and touching each other playfully in certain spots. I mean, this guy was more of a ladies' man than I am, but it still sounded ridiculous for the most part. By the way, I'd actually love to hear what you all think about his theory in the comments. He'll probably be happy to hear if people agree with him. He can be quite a fool half the time. Eventually, I headed back home, not necessarily convinced of what he had been talking about, but I will admit that it started to make me think. If Steve and Lucy found themselves in a charged situation, would they stop each other? Would at least one of them stop? Would my girlfriend even consider it cheating? They met in college, and that's when women tend to experiment the most. So would I know if they ever experimented with each other back then? I was a bit annoyed at my friend because I became a little fixated on finding an answer. I guess I was starting to have a little doubt about the relationship. That fixation made me a little more talkative the next day, and I asked her about some experimentation in college. She talked about trying weed and some other light drugs. Her words, not mine, but the habits never really stuck. I decided to take the conversation where I wanted it to go and asked her whether she ever experimented with women. Her reaction seemed exaggerated to me, with a lot of laughing, head shaking, and saying no over and over. It did not make me feel better because I seriously doubted whether she was telling the truth. Right then I tried to press a little bit more, but it seemed close to turning into an issue, so I let it go. At this point, I kind of wish I hadn't followed through with the questioning because I actually didn't believe a word she said. Now I feel like she and Lucy either have something going on or they've had something in the past. The past is the past, but it would feel a lot better to have had that stated from the very start. If that's the case, I think everyone might agree that someone you've slept with always has a better chance of going again than the general population. It'd be nice if I had a good idea of this from the very beginning. To cut to the chase, I feel like there might have been something between the two of them, but I can't tell whether it was just a thing of the past or something new. I'd really love to know what you all think, though. I want to check her phone, but I'm scared of getting caught because that would seriously hurt trust between us. Edit 1. I saw a few comments saying that I'd be surprised by the number of women who are open to testing out the other side of the fence, so maybe my friend was right. However, it's still really hard for me to see my girlfriend in that way. She's never given me a hunch that she's experimented to that degree. I know it sounds like I'm making excuses for her. Edit 2. All right, I think you all made it clear that she simply won't tell me even if I ask her directly. So the only way I'm going to get an answer is by finding it myself. I'll look for an opportunity to comfortably find the answers, but I also acknowledge that not seeing anything that shows what she was up to doesn't necessarily mean she wasn't up to anything. Anyhow, once I do, I'll be sure to bring an update for all of you. Edit 3. And just to clarify, even though I never imagined it would be necessary, I'm not demonizing lesbian relationships here, as some of you are claiming. If my girlfriend experimented in college, it makes no difference to me. I just don't like the idea of thinking I have a straight partner and finding out they're cheating on me while simultaneously swinging the other way. I know there's the whole fresh and hot girl-on-girl action, but it doesn't make potential cheating any softer. It's understandable to wonder about these things, especially after she had that exaggerated response. After all, it's not every day your significant other has sleepovers with someone from their past while you're left to binge-watch Netflix alone. Maybe Lucy is just the designated friend for when Steve needs to vent about me, leaving the toilet seat up for the 100th time, or perhaps they're secretly plotting world domination through a volleyball league, who knows. As far as your pal's theory about all straight women being closeted bisexuals, well, in the end though, if you're really itching for answers, maybe just be straight up with her. Just remember, curiosity killed the cat, and in this case, it might just put a dent in your relationship too. Update 2. So here's the update that a lot of you have been waiting for. Lucy hasn't been back in town since my first post, and things between me and my girlfriend are cruising along the way they always do. Though my suspicions do occasionally pop up now and then, and I don't like it when they do, I made a pretty strong mental note to check her phone or laptop when I had a solid chance to. That opportunity finally came for me a handful of weeks after my first post, and it's been about a week since then. I was lucky enough for there to be a day when my girlfriend went out to the spa, and she was very clearly in a rush to leave the house because she was late for her appointment. We use the same model of phone, so I put mine on the table beside her handbag because I knew she'd assume it was hers in the haste. We had somewhat different cases. Hers is navy blue and mine is black, but just as I hoped, she just grabbed the phone without looking at it closely and headed out the door. I heard her car start up and she left. About 20 minutes later, her phone started ringing, and I saw she was calling me from my number. She told me she had taken my phone by accident and asked me not to be mad. There was the option for me to come over with her phone if I needed it that badly, but I told her there was no big deal. I had no issues with her having my phone because I've been faithful, and there's really nothing incriminating beyond my group chat with the boys and the nonsense we say all the time. It was a worthy trade-off. She's an extremely light sleeper, so I knew I couldn't check her phone while she was sleeping. When I was sure that she wouldn't be coming back home for her phone, I went straight in. The first place I went was the gallery app, and I scrolled back to the date when she had gone to the hotel with Lucy. There was nothing there beyond videos of them at the bar drinking and some videos of them goofing off at her hotel. I skimmed through them, but there were also plenty of pictures of her in various swimsuits. She had sent those to me earlier in the summer, but there were no signs of anything resembling a lesbian situation, and there was no footage of her fooling around with anyone. So I hopped on over to her Instagram, and while she was very active on her account, I didn't find any questionables or anything with Lucy. I went through her messages with Lucy as well, but most of them were either memes or light-hearted chatter about whatever was trending. They were also quite inactive since my girlfriend had been the one to send a lot of the messages. So there wasn't really anything to suggest something happened or is happening between them, and I didn't find any evidence to suggest she's ever experimented. Now, before I signed out of her phone, I decided to check out her photos. There were plenty of pictures of the two of us, family and friends, but the only one that raised my brow was a photo of the two of them together at the bar. I know it sounds corny, but I think Lucy is actually quite pretty, and I kind of understand why Steve gets so giggly about her. However, that's just me being dumb, and it's nothing too concerning. After I was done, I put her phone back in her handbag before she came back. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't find anything wrong, so I thought I'd just let it be. But I will admit I was a little more comfortable now that I had something of a resolution. I think that whole theory my buddy had is a bit far-fetched, but it's still an interesting idea to think about. I'm glad I went through with the snooping and came out relatively unscathed. That said, I still have my suspicions, and I'll definitely be on the lookout for any signs in the future. I'm not saying I don't trust her. I think it's just the human nature of wanting to make sense of something that's weighing heavily on me. After my little snooping session, things went back to normal between Steve and me. I didn't bring up my concerns or the idea that I had doubted her fidelity. Instead, I tried to focus on enjoying our time together and pushing my worries to the back of my mind. But as time went on, I found myself still second-guessing everything. The thoughts crept in during quiet moments. Was there more to her relationship with Lucy than I knew? Would she really tell me if something had happened? I'd catch myself imagining scenarios where she might be sneaking around, and I'd have to shake those thoughts away. One evening, Steve and I were watching television on the couch, and she turned to me with that familiar smile. "You seem a bit off lately. Is everything okay?" I felt my heart race. Did she sense my internal struggle? I chuckled and brushed it off. "Just tired. I guess work's been a bit hectic." She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't completely convinced. I appreciated that she cared enough to ask, but I also felt guilty for not being open with her about my feelings. As weeks turned into months, Lucy hadn't come back to town. I found myself strangely relieved. The less time they spent together, the less I had to worry about. But then out of nowhere Steve mentioned they were planning to have a weekend getaway together in the coming month. I felt a pang of anxiety shoot through me. A weekend trip, just the two of you. She looked at me, surprised by my reaction. "Yeah, it's just a fun girls' trip. We are going to hit the beach and unwind. You don't mind, do you?" I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Of course, I wanted her to have fun with her friends, but the thought of her being away with Lucy for an entire weekend sent my mind racing. I forced a smile. "No, I'm cool with it. Just don't forget to text me, okay?" The days leading up to the trip were a mix of excitement and dread. I tried to push my worries aside, reminding myself that I'd found no evidence of anything suspicious in her phone. But what if she had changed her mind about being faithful? When the day of the trip arrived, I felt a knot in my stomach as I watched her pack. Steve wore a cute sundress, and her hair fell in waves over her shoulders. She looked beautiful, and I wanted to be happy for her. "You're going to have a great time," I told her, even though I was trying to convince myself as much as her. As she headed out the door, I felt a wave of uncertainty wash over me. "Be safe, okay?" "Always," she replied with a bright smile. Once she left, I tried to distract myself with work and video games, but my mind kept wandering back to her and Lucy. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Eventually, I succumbed to my curiosity. I decided to check her social media while she was away. I knew it wasn't the healthiest choice, But my anxiety got the better of me. I opened her Instagram and scrolled through her posts. There were a few stories of them at the beach laughing and enjoying the sun, but nothing that seemed out of line. Then I noticed a post with a photo of the two of them, arms around each other, both beaming. The caption read, "Besties for life." I felt a mix of relief and frustration. On one hand, they looked happy, which was good. On the other, I couldn't help but feel like there was something more beneath the surface, some hidden connection I couldn't quite grasp. The weekend dragged on, and I tried to keep myself busy, but my mind kept spiraling. I sent her a couple of texts throughout the trip, which she answered promptly, sharing little snippets of their adventures. But each reply only slightly eased my anxiety. When Steve finally returned home, I was a bundle of nerves. I greeted her with a hug and a smile, trying to hide the questions swirling in my head. "How was it?" "Unreal, we had such a blast," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "Did you guys do anything special?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. She shrugged. "Just the usual beach stuff, swimming, eating, sunbathing, nothing too crazy." As we settled back into our routine, I could sense a change in the air. She seemed more vibrant, almost as if the trip had reinvigorated her. But I also felt a nagging feeling that I was missing something. I wanted to believe her, to trust her completely. Yet the thought of Lucy lingered in the back of my mind like an itch I couldn't scratch. I found myself scrutinizing little things: how she talked about Lucy, her demeanor when they were mentioned. Was there a glimmer of something in her eyes that I hadn't noticed before? I didn't want to be that guy, overly paranoid and distrustful. But I also didn't want to be blind to what could be unfolding right in front of me. Eventually, I made a choice. I needed to talk to Steve about my feelings. I didn't want to accuse her of anything, but I wanted to be honest about my doubts. That evening, after dinner, I took a deep breath. "Hey, can we talk about something?" "Sure, what's on your mind?" I hesitated, but then I dove in. "It's about your trip with Lucy. I know you two are friends, but I've been feeling a bit uneasy about it." Steve's expression shifted slightly, concern etched on her face. "Uneasy? Why? Did I do something to make you feel that way?" I shook my head. "No, it's not you. It's just, I guess I'm worried about what could happen when you're together. I don't want to feel insecure in our relationship." She reached out, taking my hand. "I get it, I really do, but you have to know that you're the one I love. Lucy and I are just friends." I nodded, but I couldn't shake the feeling completely. "I appreciate you saying that, but it's hard for me to ignore my doubts. I want to trust you, but it's a struggle." Steve sighed, clearly troubled. "I don't want you to feel this way. I promise I'll do everything I can to reassure you. Just give me a chance to show you." I took a moment to process her words. Maybe this was the clarity I needed. "Okay, I'll try to work on it, but can we keep talking about it if it—" "Absolutely," she said, squeezing my hand. "I want us to be open about everything." As the conversation wrapped up, I felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps by addressing my fears, I could let go of the lingering anxiety that had clouded my mind. Trust was something we'd have to build together, and maybe, just maybe, we could find a way through this together. Thanks for tuning in to today's Reddit story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on more amazing stories. See you next time.